So Maz, the other day, customer comes in, needs a lighter. So he gets a lighter, comes back the very next day and thinks it's broken. It's not lighting.
Right.
Did you ever get that?
I mean, I have to say, I see that all the time. I mean, inevitably, people get a lighter, they bring it home, they might go through one tank of gas. Maybe it's the next day, 2 days later, whatever. And then they go to refill it, and then it's not firing, it's misfiring. And they bring it back, they think the lighter's broken. Well, the lighter's not broken. I always say, I love butane torch lighters, whether you're indoors, outdoors, especially when you're obviously outdoors. But they can be finicky.
Yeah.
So refilling the lighter, to me, is where a lot of people make a mistake. They don't purge the lighter. That's really important, because a lot of times when people bring the lighter back, it's as easy as really just purging it
And refilling.
it. But you got to listen to get all the air out, because you have to get if not, you get a little air bubble.
Yep.
I've had guys tell me, like, hey man, I have like 2 engineering degrees, and I can't figure out how to light a butane, fill a butane lighter. And it's funny to see, but obviously we've been around it a long time. We've kind of trying to work on many lighters, and a lot of times it's really simple as an air pocket. Or sometimes striker is not really sparking towards the fuel. There's a lot of different things that goes on. It can kind of be the way to troubleshoot it is a little easier for us, but that's why we're going to do this video today. It's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about butane lighters, issues you might have, and how to resolve it. You ready to teach them?
I am.
Let's do it.
All right. So Maz, when it comes to butane lighters, I think the most common issue is improper filling.
Yeah, I agree. I can't tell you how many times people get the lighter, bring it home, they go to refill it, and that's where the issues begin. Starting with purging of the lighter. People don't purge the lighter. They want to just rush right to it and fill the lighter with the butane can. And you have to purge it, because you have to get not only the excess gas, you have to get the air out of the line, because when you get the air pocket is when you get the misfires. It'll start to, like, a lot of times people say, I don't know what's going on, this thing's broke. It lights for a second, then it goes out on me. As soon as I hear that, I think it's an air pocket, And then purge the lighter, and inevitably, what everybody says, you purge it, you refill it. How'd you do that,
It's magic.
But, there's a lot of information out there, but once you physically show someone how to do it, purge the lighter, refill it properly, it clicks with people. And I think that's the most important, basically thing you could teach someone when it comes to the refilling of a butane lighter. Doing it properly is where it all starts. I would say a majority of the issues come from improper fill.
Yeah, and when you do refill the lighter, when you put your gas in it, you always want to wait a few minutes before you try to light the lighter, just because it's cold, you want it to warm up. And that way it'll light for you every time.
Yeah, that's something you always have to keep in mind. People say a couple minutes, just warm it with your hands. You just don't want to try to fire it right away, but you're right, Ant.
It won't work if you try it right away.
A lot of times that's exactly what happens. People refill it and then it doesn't spark right away. They panic even more so. But they could be a little finicky, but if you know how to work it and refill a lighter, that's more than half your battle. All right, Foch, so you want to demo a little bit? Give me a little lesson?
Sure.
Starting with purge, the purge. So essentially what you want to do, you turn the lighter upside down, as Anthony's doing, and he's using the paper clip right now. I prefer, if you have one handy, a little eyeglass screwdriver.
Yeah,
they're the best.
That works better.
It works really well. You can even use a finish nail maybe, but in a pinch, a paper clip will work. And essentially what he's doing is getting all the excess butane out of the lighter, but also any air that might remain inside that fuselage. And then you really want to do is, as you're purging the lighter, eventually you want to bring it really close to your ear. Obviously, do not spark the lighter when you bring it close to your face. And you want to listen for all the hissing to go away. And that's how you know that the tank is fully empty. You won't have any air pockets. You ready to fill?
Yep.
You need some butane?
I do.
I got some.
All right, good.
There you go, kid.
Thank you.
So then when it's time to refill, second step, lighter stays upside down, butane can slips right over the nozzle to refill the lighter. And then what you want to do is kind of like back and forth motion a little bit, up and down with the can. It forces the butane into the lighter. And a lot of times you'll actually feel the lighter getting cold. That's how you know it's accepting the butane. And some people say, when they're refilling the lighter, like, well, the gas is backing out. that tells you the lighter is actually filled up, and it's it's a small tank. It doesn't take that long if you do it properly. Once you turn that lighter upside down and you refill it, it starts backing out. That's how you know the lighter's filled up all the way. And then at this point, what you want to do is give it time. You want to warm the lighter maybe with your hands. It's got to come up to room temperature because butane goes into a lighter freezing. And then, even if cold weather, did you ever notice that?
Oh yeah, it definitely won't light in the cold. If you keep your lighter in the car,
exactly,
and try to light it, it won't light.
How many times people walk in, it gets cold here in Philly in the wintertime, and somebody will leave their lighter in the glove compartment, or they're even walking around the city, it's cold, and they're like, this lighter won't work. And of course, as soon as they come indoors, it's nice and warm and toasty.
Right, they give it to you, and
you're like,
it feels like an ice cube.
It feels, but as soon as you warm it up, it sparks every time.
Lights right away.
So that's the same concept. But when you fill it, you got to wait a little bit. It's probably still got to wait a little bit more. Yep. But you have to be patient with it. But there are 3 simple steps. Purge, refill, warm. And that really takes care of the majority of the problems. There you go. And now you're going, right?
Yep. Now you're good to go.
Yep. So no air pocket, lighting.
It's not sputtering.
No. The other thing to keep in mind too, I see a lot of people make the mistake, is with a lighter like this one here. They want to click it really fast.
Right.
Too fast. Like, right? And obviously it might light every other time you do that. You want to make sure that when you strike the lighter, it's almost like a deliberate motion. And the reason for that is when you're striking the lighter, there has to be a spark, and then the gas has to pass over that spark.
Right.
If you click it too fast, a lot of times it'll blow itself out and won't give a chance for the lighter to light.
Correct.
So I see a lot of people making that mistake. They're click, 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 click. I'm like, just slow your roll. Just be deliberate with it, right? And it'll light every time if you do that. But I see too many people click, 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 click. But if you're deliberate, it gives time for the fuel to pass by the spark, and then you're off and running. Yep. So that takes care of the basics, the 3 simple rules to refill a lighter and keep it going.
One of the other common problems I see when it comes to butane lighters is that fuel setting is probably turned, a lot of times it's turned down all the way. Yeah. So it's not in the proper position.
Yeah, and even like in some instructional videos I've seen or some of the literature you read, it tells you to turn the lighter down to its lowest setting when you're refilling it, which is good practice because obviously once you refill the lighter, if it's turned all the way up and the lighter's still too cold, sometimes you get a big flame comes out, so you have to be real careful with that. So, but just remember, if you turn the lighter down, and most of them have a simple dial at the bottom, once you turn it down, you want to make sure you turn it back up and then try to use the lighter, just I would say medium setting. Yeah. And everyone's different. Some people really like to crank it. But that's another issue I see at times.
I mean, you're wasting fuel. The flame's too high.
Well, and that will actually it'll blow itself out. Yep. So sometimes it'll be as simple as that. Somebody will bring a lighter back to us.
I'll turn the lighter down
and just turn it down, and it works. Yep. So be conscious of that. Medium setting is usually pretty good. And you have to remember that flame, even though you can't see it a lot, because it's invisible to the eyes, depending on the lighting, especially like outdoors. This got heat to it. You know what I mean? You bring it slowly to the cigar, that cigar is going to light. Yeah. So you don't have to be on the highest setting all the time. That's another thing to keep in mind. Yep. So Fats, the last issue I see all the time when it comes to butane lighters is people use an inferior butane. Yep. I always tell people, go to a tobacconist, a true tobacconist. It's worth the investment. People, they value their lighters. They go and they seek a model out that they really like, and then they just go to a convenience store because it's convenient, right? And they buy inferior butane. Yeah, that's a no-no. No, you don't want to do that because it burns dirty, it clogs up all the jets in the lighter. So you want to use a quality butane. I mean, we use the Cigar brand today. Right. It's a very good, clean, burning butane. But stay away from any of that convenience store butane. Yeah, you want some kind of butane that's more refined, maybe. Usually like 2-3 times refined, 4 times, depending on the brand. Triple refined. Right. And then there's some brands, and Cigar actually carries one, the one in the black can. It's butane and propane. High performance. It's called high performance gas. That burns really, really well. It burns really clean. Yeah. So use a high quality butane, aside from the tips that we showed you. And I think if everybody keeps what we just talked about in mind, I would say 95% of your lighter issues will go away. Yeah. But obviously, go to your tobacconist. If you get to a part where an impasse where you tried everything we suggested and it's just not working out, go back to your tobacconist. They'll give you maybe another little lesson like we just gave you here, or just revisit this video. Right? Just run through it again. But that's the way to keep a lighter working. Yeah. Those basic steps. As simple as that. It just really is. It's one of those things that once you get a feel for it, especially, then it's like it's like riding a bike. Get right back on there. Yep. But it doesn't have to be rocket science. Not at all. Yeah. Yeah, so I think if people keep those simple steps in mind, they're going to be good to go when it comes to butane lighters.
Yep.
So I want to thank you all for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and you learned a thing or two. But before we depart, make sure you hit that like button.
Smash the subscribe button.
And we'll see you here next time.